Tony, this is a stunning final project here, your assignment 2. Very nice. Just a couple of small things, even where the surface, the ground underneath the subjects is quite dark, I think you will find that there can be cast shadow. Also, I noticed a soft edge at the horizon line, and I would encourage you to let that be crisp on one side of the value area or the other. I do notice that it seems you've signed your name right on the central subject, and I would say that's something to avoid. Now, maybe the value's too dark on the periphery. Perhaps you have a white pencil, or you could just maybe smudge away some of the charcoal and sign there. Hi, Christina. I know you intended to post your final. However, you just posted the assignment 1 over again, and I've tried to email you. I would appreciate it if you could send that to me today, Monday, as soon as you can, and hopefully we can revise your grade without having to do a grade change. Tangi, you know what interests me a great deal here is this, what looks like a Dixie cup, though it might be the lid to some shaving cream there. I like the way that that's drawn with care. It seems as though it's a very viable cone-like shape that you portrayed. All of this could use a great deal more shading, more value, and I think the matter is just to dig into the assignment earlier on and decide what it is you want to do, and then invest the hours. Let's take a look at that sort of coffee cup. It may be asymmetrical, however, its bottom edge should probably be more curved. And I noticed that the canister seems to have a straight edge at its bottom too, what we can see of it. So those are some things to think about, as well as the addition of cast shadows. Hi, Yell. I noticed that you have really worked on the interior face of the shell that's turned to the side there on the left, and that does make a difference. While these shells are organic, irregular forms, there is a sort of norm for them. Every shell I've seen of this variety has a certain sort of proportion, and it is a hard form to get down, so I encourage you to continue looking at such subjects, studying them, analyzing them, drawing them. Now, with regard to the words, I'd say they don't have to be readable. Take a look at the illustrations in Edwards' books, erasers, other art supplies, and observe that while there's text, things haven't been spelled out. I'm just wondering whether the edge of the album cover could be more crisp, and if you've got exactly the right shape for the placemat. Camille, you've done some very fine work with this final project, especially like the line drawing. And the addition of value in assignment 2 is going well, but you can push that further. I observed that you've added a cast shadow under the teapot, and I'm wondering what happened to the cast shadow at the bottom of the tea bowl, to like the reflection in the top of the tea bowl there on what is presumably the tea. So I'd say just push the shading a little further. You're getting there. Well, hi, Teresa. I like your idea about making us wonder why the entire head of the doll hasn't been included. It tells me that you're thinking about composition and meaning within composition. Interestingly, that vase you've drawn looks a little like shoulders without a neck and head, for example. So there's a bit of an echo. These objects are drawn in a very lovely way. I noticed that your cylinder drawing concepts aren't serving you as well as they might in that base at the bottom of the doll, and maybe even at the bottom of the vase the edge could be more curvy. I wish that there was something more to look at in the top right. The composition seems a little bottom heavy, and I'm so glad that you decided to use sfumato for this. Hi, Elisa. You really have shown some dedication in this drawing. The texture in the wicker basket is just phenomenal. Thinking about this, perhaps more could have been done in the earlier phase of the drawing in terms of experimenting with possible compositions. I would suggest that you work with thumbnail sketches and just try different possibilities out. For instance, what if the wine bottle was off to the side, or what if the wicker basket obviously overlaps the hat box rather than just overlapping it a tiny bit. So some different thoughts on composition here. In addition, the hat box is drawn in a way that makes it hard for me to appreciate what exactly its form might be. Hat boxes I've seen are cylindrical in form. Well, hi, Jason. The way you've portrayed these objects from the line drawing is quite convincing. At first, I wasn't clear on whether these objects could all be on the same plane, but now that I see that the glasses are sort of turned down on their lenses, it does make sense. I'm trying to figure out what the rectangle underneath the objects represents in the shaded version, because if it is a tabletop or even a book that these things sit on, then the sides of it would have to slant, sort of like a parallelogram. I do think that your values are serving you pretty well. I'm looking at the toe of the flip-flop there, and I love the way that that's shaded. I think that there's a possibility to lose line more and concentrate on shapes of value here. Well, Christina, this is a pretty amazing drawing. Just look at this. I find the center of attention to be the volleyball, which sort of sits atop this tall pedestal of a popcorn can. I'm wondering whether the bottles might have some areas that are darker in value. Also, they don't really seem to be reflecting like glass. They look like they might be painted or opaque, which is okay. One little thing I suggest is to permit there to be some variation in value in the backdrop so that it's not all just flat black. Well, Lisa, you certainly are a picture of industry. I'm so pleased to see the drafts and the finals for both assignment 1 and 2. Looking at the very last version, there was so much to like there. I'm still a little concerned about the box of tea in the foreground. I feel as though it sits right on the bottom edge of the page still, and that maybe its perspective is not just quite right. It's more perhaps how one would think the perspective should look versus the way the box actually looks. So what to do about that? Maybe you could simply downplay it, and as you may have heard me say elsewhere, I would discourage letting labeling on boxes be readable. Let it be a little bit obscured, because here we're trying to appreciate representation of dimensional objects. This isn't so much about reading, making drawings. So let's see, what more? I'm looking for the right sort of shadow within the teacups, and I don't know if they're meant to be full or empty, but I think the interior value is something you could revisit. And then with regard to steam, well, I'm glad you added some. However, it might be good to take a look at pictures of steam and then to test how to draw it on some scrap paper. Well, Denise, these cameras are put down on the paper very well, very accurately. It's very believable rendition. When you add value, I think you're being a little bit shy, and I would encourage people to stick with one medium, either graphite or charcoal. Further, I think if you want white, if you want strong light value, the trick there is to darken everything else so that you can use the white of the paper as a bright white. Hi, Melissa. I put this assignment example there in the corner of everybody's review page to remind us that texture is a subject, and also, this sort of standard that you want to reach for. While this drawing is made by professional artists, I don't think that it's too much to ask you to strive in that direction. With this particular drawing, I like the idea of a theme, the recipe for s'mores. However, I feel strongly that you had the opportunity to really polish this and bring it around to something that could be finished. And it still feels a bit like a sketch. I want to applaud everyone because this is a substantial quantity of work, and it's so lovely to see the progress on one project from the layout drawing through to the finished one. I wish all of you success in future and urge you to continue to draw, and I welcome you to be in touch with me and let me know what you're up to. Take care and have a great break.